Prison. Prison is a terrible place. And if somebody said you had to spend the rest of your life there, I bet you would be terrified. But just like a lot of things in life, prison isn't just one absolute. While some prisons may look like a hotel stay, others look like a hellhole from another world. And in today's video, we'll be looking at all those hellholes from another world. And after today, you may find a newfound respect about being free and in the outside world. First, I will take you to Asia, where we will look at North Korea on the Korean Peninsula. This is where Kachin Internment Camp is located, also known as Camp 14. It is considered one of the worst prisons in the world. It is a political prison camp where inmates, including entire families, are imprisoned for their perceived political crimes. The conditions are harrowing, with severe malnutrition, hard labor, and constant surveillance. Prisoners endure grueling work schedules, often in dangerous and exhausting conditions, with minimal food, leading to widespread starvation. And what's even more disturbing is that even children that are 11 years old have to work after school, thus not allowing them to see their parents. Other reports describe prisoners being severely punished for minor infractions. And horrifyingly, prisoners are forced to resort to eating things like frogs, insects, rats, snakes, and in even some cases, cannibalize each other. This is all in order to meet their dietary needs, with rats in particular helping prevent a disease called pellagra, which is a common disease in the camp resulting from a lack of vitamin B3. In order to get anything else outside of this diet, they must get permission from the guards. Now you may have read or seen the common book Escapes from Camp 14, which kind of gives and shows us a little insider's perspective of the camp. The book revolves around Shin Don Haiku, which claims he was born in the camp and lived there until his early 20s. Shin did state that he did not spend his entire North Korean life at Camp 14, and when he was young, his family was transferred to the less severe Camp 18, and they spent several years there, and in the year 2002, as a punishment for escaping Camp 18, he was tortured at Camp 14. Camp 14 is just at the top of the hellhole, because as we go further down, we will reach our next prison. I will now take you to Kenya, where our next prison is located, Kamiti Maximum Security Prison, which is a very dangerous and disgusting prison. The prison is located near Nairobi, Kenya, and it's notorious for its terrible living conditions and severe overcrowding. Originally built to only hold 1,400 inmates, the prison frequently houses over 3,000, leading to cramped and unsanitary conditions. Inmates often lack access to adequate food, clean water, and medical care, resulting in widespread malnutrition and disease. Reports of physical abuse and torture by prison guards are common, creating an atmosphere of fear and oppression. Corruption within the prison system further compounds these issues, with reports of bribery and extortion being widespread. During the 80s and 90s, many political prisoners were held at Kamiti, some of which include Hussein Amingo Obama, which is the parental grandfather of Barack Obama, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who is a Kenyan author and academic, and Raila Odinga, who is a Kenyan politician and served as Prime Minister of Kenya from 2008 to 2013. But there is a section located within the prison named G Block, and it's famous for its particularly brutal lifestyle. But now we move on to the country with the largest population in the world, India. But India doesn't just hold the largest population in the world, it's also home to one of the worst prisons in the world. I introduce you to Mumbai Central Jail, also known as Arthur Road Jail. It's one of India's oldest and most notorious prisons. Overcrowding is a significant issue, with the facility often housing more than double its capacity. This severe overcrowding leads to unsanitary conditions, insufficient food, and inadequate medical care, exacerbating health problems among the inmates. The prison is infamous for its brutal treatment of prisoners, with frequent reports of violence both among inmates and from prison guards. The lack of rehabilitative programs mean that prisoners have little opportunity for personal growth or reform. The jail was originally built to accommodate 800 prisoners, but the average number of inmates is around 2,900. Overcrowding has been such a big issue for this prison that there was a proposal to build another such facility in the suburbs to ease the load on the prison. The State Human Rights Commission had suggested that the prison be shifted due to many high-rise constructions around the jail, but some progress was made in July of 2021 when 8 new brackets were added to the jail, which could house 200 additional inmates. Construction for this lasted a whopping 5 years, and this could be due to a shortage of funds. And the whole reason why this was done was to alleviate the crowding situation. And as we continue down this list, you will recognize a pattern. A lot of these prisons have terrible sanitary conditions. Most of them have human rights abuses by guards, and a lot of prisoners and inmates aren't getting access to nutritional foods. But now I will take you to our next prison, which is located in Georgia. And no, not this Georgia, this Georgia. Georgia, also known as the Cartvello, is home to our next prison on the list, Gildani Prison. Gildani Prison, located in Tbilisi, Georgia, is infamous for its severe human rights violations and brutal treatment of inmates. The prison gained international notoriety in the year 2012 when videos surfaced showing guards torturing, beating, and sexually assaulting prisoners. In addition to the abuse, Gildani Prison suffers from extreme overcrowding and poor sanitary conditions. Inmates are often crammed into small cells, lacking adequate food, clean water, and medical care. These conditions lead to widespread health problems and exacerbate the suffering of the prisoners. The exposure to these abuses prompted public outrage and demands for reform. However, the legacy of violence and inhumane treatment continues to tarnish Gildani Prison's reputation. But now for our next prison, we go to Western Europe. We go to the country of France, which is known for things like these, and not for its prisons. But one of the worst prisons in the world is located here. Meet La Santé Prison. La Santé Prison, located in Paris, France, is notorious for its appalling conditions and harsh treatment of inmates. Despite being one of France's most well-known prisons, it has gained a reputation. Inmates at La Santé Prison have reported high instances of violence, both from fellow prisoner and guards. The prison is also known for its use of prolonged solitary confinement, which has devastating effects on mental health. There are significant issues with access to medical care and basic necessities, exacerbating the suffering of those incarcerated. The prison was opened in the year 1867, and ever since then, there has been a lot of high-profile people that have been incarcerated here, some of which include Isue Sagawa, Willem Hollweder, and Maurice Chalet. There has also been some escapes that have happened at this prison. One example would be Jacques Mesrine, who was a notorious French criminal. He was killed on November 2, 1979 by French police. He was shot dead in a violent confrontation in Paris after a dramatic manhunt. But now I'm going to take you to a country you may have never heard of before, Equatorial Guinea, a small country in Africa located off the coast of the Gulf of Guinea. Located in this country is a prison called Black Beach Prison. Located in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, it is notorious for its harsh treatment and widespread human rights abuses. The prison is known for severe overcrowding, with inmates packed into poorly ventilated cells that lack basic amenities. Sanitary conditions are deplorable, leading to the spread of disease among prisoners. Reports of torture, physical abuse, and mistreatment by guards are common, creating an atmosphere of fear and intimidation. In the 1940s, during the time of Spanish colonial rule, it was under Spanish Guinea. The prison was used as a place to imprison common criminals. But in 1968, when the country gained independence and when dictator Francisco Macias Nguema came to power, many political opponents were imprisoned and killed in the prison. And ever since then, it became one of Africa's most notorious prisons. Next, I will take you to El Salvador, which is a country located in Central America. El Salvador did make significant strides in improving its safety. The world saw that in 2022, a dramatic reduction in crime, especially gang-related violence, went down in the country. And while petty crimes still do occur in the country, violent crimes have decreased. So much so that the US Department of State had lowered its travel advisory for El Salvador from a level 3 to a level 2, recognizing the country's significant strides in curbing crime. But one of the worst prisons in El Salvador is Ciudad Barrios Prison, one of the most notorious and overcrowded prisons in the world. Originally designed to hold a few hundred inmates, it now houses thousands, leading to extreme overcrowding and squalid conditions. The prison is infamous for being controlled by gangs, with the MS-13 gang in particular dominating the facility. Inmates live in constant fear due to rampant violence, extortion, and brutal gang rivalries. MS-13 is an international criminal gang and terrorist organization that originated in the city of Los Angeles. Originally, they were set up as a gang to protect Salvadorian immigrants from other gangs in the Los Angeles area, but over time, they grew more and more into a traditional criminal organization. Basic necessities such as food, water, and medical care are scarce, leading to severe malnutrition and health issues. The lack of adequate security and control by the prison's authorities mean that the prison is essentially run by inmates, exacerbating the violence and lawlessness. Ciudad Barrios Prison's dire conditions and unchecked violence highlights the severe challenges within El Salvador's penal system. Now, you may have heard of Guantanamo Bay before. It's a very infamous prison detention camp. Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp, located in Cuba, is infamous worldwide for its controversial treatments of detainees and severe human rights violations. Established by the United States of America in the year 2002, it was intended to hold and interrogate suspected terrorists outside the legal protections of the US law. The camp is notorious for indefinite detention without trial, meaning many detainees have been held there for years without any charges. Reports of harsh interrogation techniques, which many consider torture, include waterboarding, sleep deprivation, and extreme isolation. These practices have drawn widespread condemnation from the human rights organizations and the international community. Guantanamo Bay was established in January of 2002 by United States President George W. Bush to hold terrorism suspects and illegal enemy combatants during the global war on terrorism. This was all set up because of the attacks that happened on September 11, 2001. As of January 2025, 780 people from 48 countries have been detained at the camp since its creation, and of which 756 have been released or transferred. 9 have died at the detention center, and 15 others still remain there. The detention camp remains a continuous symbol to the broader issues related to the war on terror, raising critical questions about justice, human rights, and the rule of law in dealing with suspected terrorists. Next, I take you to a prison located in Russia, Black Dolphin Prison. Black Dolphin Prison, located near the Kazakhstan border in Russia, is infamous for its harsh conditions and terrible way of life. Known for housing the country's most dangerous criminals, including serial killers and terrorists, the prison operates under an extreme strict regime. Inmates are kept under constant surveillance and are often blindfolded when moved within the facility to prevent escape attempts. Prisoners at Black Dolphin are subject to severe isolation, spending most of their time in small cells with minimal human contact. Reports of physical abuse and psychological torture by guards are common, contributing to the oppressive atmosphere. Prisoners are allowed to exercise in a large cage for 90 minutes a day, and while this is happening, their cells are searched for contraband or illegal items. They are forced to stand and are forbidden from resting or sitting on their bunks, and this is from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, which is roughly around 16 hours. And on top of it all, inmates are surveillanced for 24 hours a day. Imagine being watched every single day, every single motion you do, and having to stand 16 painful hours a day. This is a hellhole. But this prison houses some of the worst criminals known to man. For example, Vladimir Dragoner. He was convicted of killing 5 people and he was sentenced to life in prison at Black Dolphin all the way back in 2001. As a child, his mother humiliated him and severely beat him for the slightest offenses. He admitted to all the crimes, stating that it was his mother's fault because she instilled the hatred of women in him. He had dreamed of taking revenge since childhood, so he killed his first victim on International Women's Day. But he didn't commit the attacks alone, and he had acquaintances from his vocational school, in which he would later implicate on. After a forensic psychiatric examination, it concluded that he was sane and did not suffer from any mental disorders, and that he was clearly aware of his actions. And thus, on the 18th of July 2001, he was given a life sentence in prison. Now there's many other examples of people that have been sent to Black Dolphin, but overall, the extreme security measures, combined with reports of mistreatment and isolating conditions, makes Black Dolphin one of the most feared prisons in the world. And finally, at last, I take you to our last prison on the list. Mendoza Prison, located in Mendoza, Argentina, is infamous for its dire living conditions and rampant violence. The facility suffers a severe overcrowding problem, with inmates crammed into cells designed for far fewer people. This overcrowding leads to unsanitary conditions, inadequate access to healthcare, and insufficient food supplies, exacerbating health problems among prisoners. Violence among inmates is widespread, with frequent gang-related conflicts and physical confrontations. Reports of extortion, drug trafficking, and other criminal activities within the prison further contribute to the dangerous environment. Corruption among prison staff is also a significant issue, allowing illegal activities to thrive unchecked. The lack of effective rehabilitation programs and the harsh living conditions make Mendoza Prison one of the worst in the world. Guards often lacked adequate training, which leads to frequent clashes and mistreatment of inmates. Prisoners have little protection from gang violence within the facility, creating a constant atmosphere of fear and insecurity. These conditions make Mendoza Prison notorious worldwide, amplifying the severe challenges in Argentina's prison system that demand urgent attention and reform. That's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a newfound respect for being free. There's also other prisons that are terrible that didn't make the list, but I hope the ones I showed you today are a true eye-opener on how bad prison could really be around the world. And also, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to see more videos just like this one, and have a great rest of your day.